Hello everyone, I'm Lithium, a bored and lifeless prick. We all like to spend our time on what entertains us. It could be movies, books, musical instruments, cooking, drawing, or anything at all. For some of us, our main hobby could also become our job, which could let us lose entertainment value in that hobby, but that's not what this video is about. If you clicked in this video, we probably share the same interest, and you're probably wondering what the hell is the downfall of video games? I mean, year after year, video games seem to turn more interactive, more user-friendly, better graphics, and so on. So what is their downfall exactly? Some of my friends refer to me as an elitist who has too high standards when it comes to video games. You know who you are. But anyway, even if some people take pride in being called an elitist, I personally find the term very unfitting in my case, but that's also not what this video is about. Today, I'll try to explain as to why video games have lost their touch. In my opinion, of course. Before I start, I would like to point out one last thing. Whatever I may say, please don't take it as an objective truth. We all have our taste in video games, and it's entirely fine that you like a game that I don't. So, if I'll criticize a game that you like, please don't take it personally, because my opinion won't point towards you who likes the game, but it'll point towards my impression of said game. I mean, even I like some games that theoretically I shouldn't be liking based on my following opinions, so please, no hard feelings. That said, let's jump into it. For more or less 50 years, video games have invaded our houses with thousands and thousands of titles, divided by dozens of genres: RPG, RTS, FPS, DBS, HNS, and many, many others. Some titles made us fall in love with video games, made us emotional, euphoric, interested, excited, hyped, while others, well, not so much. But that's okay. We have different tastes. An awesome game for me could be a shithole for you and vice versa. So, what makes a game a good game? Or what makes a game a bad game? Well, let's dive into opinionism now. Have you noticed how most of the video games that came out in the last decade and a half or so seem to match the wants of the players? The internet is a very powerful tool, especially when it comes to opinions. The developer wants to sell what you want to buy, and the developer can see what you want to buy. The last Call of Duty wasn't entertaining enough? Let us know what you'd like to be improved by leaving a feedback on our website's forum, comment our Facebook page, tweet us your ideas. If the developer is not the one asking for it, then it's the publisher. And that's not even it! There will also be a market search of what genre is the most played, some scouting for what features are most loved, always digging for the chance of critical success. Of course, you can't blame them for wanting success, but I honestly believe this is one of the core problems in today's video game industry. Let me elaborate. 2 decades ago, in 2003, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic was released. In that era, the Jedi Knight series was rampant, an amalgam of first-person shooter, third-person shooter, and hack-and-slash-ish kind of thing. Very action-oriented. Dark Forces, Dark Forces 2, Mysteries of the Sith, Jedi Outcast, and Jedi Academy was about to come out. Fans wanted thrills and epic lightsaber fights. Fuck yeah! However, BioWare had a different idea on the matter, and they released a sort of turn-based RPG? Really? What about the epic fights? Well, who cares? To this day, KOTOR is considered one of the best Star Wars games ever made. A few years prior to that, in 1999, Legacy of Kain Soul Riva came out, and who the fuck asked for an action-adventure puzzle game? That same year, Final Fantasy VIII came out, featuring the Junction system, which is a system that at first is just confusing and counterintuitive. You know why these games were good? Because the developers made what they wanted to make, not what the players wanted them to make. Yes, some of you may argue that these games might not entirely live up to their hype and cult, that they might be a bit overrated, that they are outdated. Of course, but let's check something for a moment. How many of you would actually call any of these mentioned games bad, awful, terrible? Do you see my point? These games are flawed, but legendary. And surely not legendary because they listened to the average player's opinion if the junction system should be anti-user friendly. Not to sound like a boomer, but back in those days there was a lot more room for freedom, experimentation, exploration. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that there aren't any good games anymore, that video games just died out. Of course not, there still are good games out there, but the standard has changed over the years. Sadly, today it's mostly about a guaranteed success, aiming for what it is sure to sell. There's little to no daring in the general game development, giving only the illusion of progress. Let me give you a few examples for that. Custom choice for the genitalia size in Cyberpunk 2077. Houses and train tracks keep being built as time progresses in Red Dead Redemption 2. The power armor customization in Fallout 4, and much, much more. But Lithium, you're being entirely unfair, because those aren't even the main features of those games. Well then please do tell me about the main features of those games that make them stand out, because I can't seem to fucking find them. If you were to swap the gameplay alone of any of these games, would you even notice the difference? Unique game mechanics are just purely optional today and are considered risky. However, thankfully the world has mods. There are so many mods for so many games, and many of these mods aim to either improve or change some aspects of the game in question. So now it's all fine, right? God bless Skyrim and its mods. Let me tell you something. If a game requires a mod to be actually good, then it's not an actual good game. When's the last time that you played Skyrim for more than an hour straight without using any mods at all? Now, before you come at my throat with a pointy knife and ask, "Have you never used mods in a game that you consider good?" I will of course answer yes, but you need to understand that mods should be there to add flavor to the game and not to create it for the lack thereof. Another standard that changed is the graphics. Stupid fucking graphics. People are obsessed with graphics. And of course, many AAA developers want to please their audience by wasting time in making 4K textures. Oh, and by the way, that is the reason why the game requires more than 100 gigabytes on your hard drive. Worth it, right? But anyway, many games today prioritize graphics over other aspects that I would deem more important. And you know why? Because players want better graphics. Which just repeats a previous argument of mine, so let's glance over it. I don't want to sound too repetitive, but I do want to point out the waste of effort that is ruining games. Oh yes, you heard me right. I think that the obsession with graphics is one of the things that are ruining video games today. Way too much work is invested in graphics rather than in the gameplay itself. Shamelessly so. If you're wondering if I have any example to support my claim, the sad part is that my previous examples still apply. But in case you want new examples, say no more. Final Fantasy XV, Far Cry 6, Star Wars Battlefront 2, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and many, so many more. However, I don't consider the love for graphics the greatest of evils. Many modern AAA games lack challenge, lack sense of achievement when you play, lack your personal adventure. Most games like to take your hand and guide you through them. You can argue that after a long day at work, all you want is to come home and enjoy a laid-down game that doesn't require too much effort, which I see nothing wrong with, really, but the problem arises when most of the industry follows this philosophy. Yes, I know that there are some challenging franchises out there like Devil May Cry, Dark Souls, Hearts of Iron, but sadly today the word challenging is slowly morphing into competitive. In other words, single-player games are dying. You want a challenge today? Go play a fighting game, go play a battle royale, go play an MMO. But what about the challenge of a single-player game? I did mention that there are challenging franchises around, but my choices are very, very limited compared to the vast majority of video games. What's worse is that even single-player games are becoming indirectly multiplayer. Only 2% of the players who own this game have this achievement. Well, fuck those 2% and fuck those achievements. The achievement system is the biggest false challenge ever made. It simply became just a competition because it's not about the challenge itself. It's about the achievement and the bragging rights for it. They are good because they achieved it. You're bad because you didn't. Do you realize that there are people out there who cheat at a game in order to have and show an achievement on their Steam account? That's fucking insane! Yes, you can argue that, for example, when I was a kid, I did compete with my friends with who would defeat a boss in a game first, but do you want to know the difference between the two? One of the two is an actual achievement, because if you died many times, it meant you were doing something wrong. So you were forced to perfect yourself. While the other is a quick Google search for either a trainer or the metastrat on a Reddit's post. Yes, I am blaming the internet once more. But worry not, this argument is dying quite hastily because, as mentioned before, the true single player is dying. There's just such a small number of modern games that want you to learn and perfect yourself alone. Because the majority of single player gamers just want to be guided. Click and win. There is so much more to talk about, so much more to address, so much more to complain. But I feel like I vented enough for today. Another time, perhaps. To conclude this video, I don't want you to get me wrong. You are free to enjoy any game you want to enjoy. And I'm not judging you for the games you like, because we can't really choose our tastes, and I respect that. In this world ravaged by microtransactions, early access games, pay-to-win material, and much, much more, all I'm asking is the release of a video game that would make me feel like a kid again.